Welcome into the breakdown. Well, we've found our semi-finalists, our Fab Four. No surprises, the best four teams in the competition have made it through. The Brumbies, the Blues, the Crusaders and Chiefs. And let me give you a little hint, Sir JK. You're not here to defend yourself, but the Chiefs, they're just simmering away, coming into form at the right time of the season, and they're coming for you.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, talofa lava. Great to have you joining us on the breakdown today. Jeff Wilson, Mills Muliaina and Stephen Bates replacing Sir John Kerwin tonight because we need to bring the Blues up, you know? You know what you're here for.
Yeah, I'll be a bit more humble than JK though, so yeah.
Jeff, you look like you're bursting out of the seams to say something.
Wait. Two things already. The fact that you think the Chiefs are going to roll straight on through the Crusaders to take on the Blues, and the fact that Sir John Kerwin is not here tonight and we replace him with someone who's on the Blues coaching staff, actually responsible for my Highlanders not getting another opportunity in this competition. I'm so looking forward to the next 50-odd minutes.
Oh, come on, Mills. The Chiefs are coming, right, aren't they?
He's a Blues man. What are you talking about? Move on. He's a Blues man, aren't you, Millsy?
Mills.
They're coming all right. They're going to go down to Orange Theory Stadium and try and beat those Crusaders, but they're heading there. You're right, Kirsty. They're heading their form in the right time, and they're getting some key players back. So I'm looking forward to a Chiefs Blues final.
There is no confidence whatsoever in what you've just said. Nothing whatsoever. Given the fact the form we saw last night at Eden Park is going to be tough for everyone to go across and beat. Come to Eden Park and Auckland and do. Look, it was an impressive performance. You have to say, a number of players put their hands up, but bottom line, the Highlanders depleted. You lose Aaron Smith. They just weren't good enough to compete. They hung in there for 20 minutes, but bottom line, I think it was a huge, huge challenge. They didn't meet the mark. The Blues were too good.
This is playoff football, isn't it? The best teams go through, and they have time now to talk Super Rugby, of course. Super Rugby with Nurofen available at Chemist Warehouse.
Fussy with the pass. Barrett getting more and more involved, breaking them open, and Barrett is in. Choke comes away with it. Finley pulls the pass down. Nice short ball for Tui Bartashek. He's got Ioane with him, and Barrett's going to get a second. Brilliant. Quick hands, and the Blues have got numbers. Straightening up beautifully and racing away is Roger Tui Bartashek.
Yeah, it's a pretty thing to watch, that's for sure. Before we get stuck into the Blues, I just wanted to make one comment. The crowd that was at Eden Park last night, 23,000, the Auckland public, they're believers again.
On a long weekend as well. But everyone loves a winner, but a long weekend as well. And also, I knew this, the trains weren't working. So it was actually a bit of a pain in the butt to get in, to be honest with you. So normally I'm a train catcher and they weren't working. So a semi-final this weekend, they should get 28.
How good is that? I mean, we saw Roger Tui Bartashek score his first try for the Blues, but I feel like this guy gets bums on seats and he actually gets people off their seats.
Winning gets bums on seats, though. That's what it does. And the fact you look at their squad and you think about what they've put together and the consistency of their performances, they were able to send a second-string team. When I say second team, their second 15 to beat the Waratahs the week before. Then they come back and put the #1 side out, Mills. And this team, even though there was some speed wobbles early on, for the second half and 60 minutes of this game, they were clearly the best side.
Well, that confidence as well, and I think why a lot of the crowd are coming into it is because of the way they've been playing. I mean, they absorbed a lot of pressure. The Highlanders really stuck it to them in that sort of first sort of 10 or 15 odd minutes. But then to sort of pull away, they just seem to win really big moments and sort of just ride those moments and actually score points and then pull away. So this is a different Blues team. They are going to be hard to beat at home, but I've seen enough of the stuff that they've sort of had to go through in terms of adversity within their squad to really push on and become champions.
But see, well, I'm looking at the performances of a number of players in this game. In particular, when you get to knockout football, you start judging where guys are at in their season. And I look at Hoskins Sotutu and I look at Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, the two players for me that probably needed to continue to make strides in their season over the last month. I think last night was a really good stepping stone for them, particularly Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. We've been waiting for him to see some space. Not only did he find it, he ran into holes and he created for other players around him.
And he gets it off the back of front football. Just we're on this as well. Happy birthday, Rog, 29 today. So he got his first try on his birthday as well. So, but yeah, both of those two really stood out. And you talk about the dangerous nature of the Blues as he gets through the gaps here. Those two are two there that you just got to keep an eye on because they've got blistering speed and footwork. And Hoss, to be fair, is like another back that can do the grunt of the forwards work. So if you're going to beat the Blues, you're going to have to nullify their threats. You're going to have to give them slow ball because if you give players like that decent front foot ball, they will hurt you, as we saw last night.
What are you seeing from Hoskins that you like?
He's really active last night, first and foremost, but I think his physical nature, he's really starting to come into his own in terms of finding that. Usually he's been a bit passive and got a bit loose, but the way he's sort of, turning up and really, taking the ball and, into contact, but also off the ball as well. Some of his tackling as well, Jeff, he's been really impressive.
Dominating the contact area. An area last year you felt as though he had the potential to do it on a consistent basis, but he didn't deliver it, and he fell off on the last couple of months of the season, and he started for me a little bit flat, Batesy, at the start of this year. But once again, the business end, big year for the All Blacks last year. He was a part of that. He looks fresher, he looks sharper, and then all of a sudden you're seeing all of his skill set, and they're asking him and giving him the freedom. I heard he's been given the licence to kick the ball whenever he feels like it, whether he wants to kick it high, whether he wants to kick it long. That's a player who's got confidence from his coaches.
Well, he's got a skill set. We all know that. He played first five at school and he's got a skill set. But the thing I really enjoyed about him last night is the Highlanders were on top for about 25, 30 minutes. And they were squeezing the Blues. They were. And there were a few mistakes from the Blues. But then Hoss got the ball in a wider channel and he beat about 4 people on a dime, then got the Blues the front foot ball. And that's what, when you're big players with genuine ability like he does, just beats a few people, get them on the front foot, and then they clean well, and then all of a sudden guys like Roger come into the game and then they're hard to stop.
Mills, you know who it reminded me of? In his prime, out on the edge, it was Kieran Reed. Not so much the kicking, but the ability to beat players, look for an offload, still in a wider channel. I really like the way the Blues have started to use him. Whereas before, I think in the first part of the season, the Blues maybe a little bit more predictable, relying a bit more on their just ability to carry with size. All of a sudden, they're on the edges and looking dangerous.
But he's embraced that role too. It's always hard when you're young, Lucy, in a big sort of, it's a spotlight position, right? To sort of know your place and what you're going to do. I like the fact that what Basie's just mentioned, the fact that, he knows they're under the pump. Now it's up to him to take, take the game to himself and actually do the simple stuff. And it's as simple as that. Get over the game line, get some momentum back into the game for the likes of Beauden Barrett, and then the forwards just, stay simplistic. So I think maturity has come into it, but also the fact he's fresh. I think Leon McDonald has really rotated his... Well, I wouldn't say rotated. He's used his squad, very well throughout the season.
Had the luxury of doing that. Had the luxury because of the depth they have built. You talk to Tony Brown. He only had half of his squad from the start of the year available for that game last night. And that showed. It took its toll.
But they've built that culture that players don't want to leave there, right? Just like the Crusaders.
Yeah, and I guess also you definitely do have the luxury to understand that injuries are injuries. You can't, they happen, but also there's
the less they play, though, the less likely you're going to get injured.
Yeah, exactly. But there is something to say about what they are building there. There's people that want to hang around now. And to go back to your original point, Jeff, fans like winners. Players like winning too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for years, I'm not saying it's changed, but for years, players have gone to the Crusaders because they're winning. You look better in a winning team. And the Blues over the last little while has developed that. And from my opinion, long may it continue.
And they look good.
We'll see.
Well, you know who else is winning? Your twos. Former side, the Chiefs. Clayton McMillan said it wasn't a perfect performance. He's still looking for that perfect performance. But he said for him it doesn't exist because of the game plan that they play. Are they genuine title contenders from what you're seeing, Mills?
Well, I think, with the guys that are getting back, they're starting to get to that form that they produced earlier on in the season. It helps when you get someone like Brodie Retallick back and... the likes of Sam Cane might be ending up back. They are a contender when it comes to semis, finals ball, but they've got to get that balance right between sort of that helter-skelter sort of, when they're loose as well. I think that's really let them down in during the round robin, where they've sort of gained momentum, but they've made simple errors that have got teams back into it. In the weekend, they were pretty good for big pitches, and the likes of Brad Weber, they're coming into form. So the right players, Jeff, for me, are coming into some really good form.
And in the last couple of weeks, Quinta Paya has started to show just a little bit more accuracy, and particularly on the defensive side, but still needs to continue his work if they get Sam Cane back this week. Massive. I know you're crossing your fingers, but I'm looking even for Sam Cane and the injury or what's happened to Dalton Papali'i in terms of the operation he has suffered. We need Sam Cane back out on the field just for New Zealand rugby playing at his best. If that comes this week against the Crusaders, who are going to be without Ethan Blackadder, all of a sudden this matchup, and they are the team that have challenged the Crusaders right there and beaten them. So you've got to like where they're at right now.
Kieran Reed gets nervous with the Chiefs going down to Christchurch because that's their bogey team and someone that's leading them well. Brodie Retallick, right? Second game back from injury.
Yeah, and Sam Cane as well. And I don't have it in front of me, but when this guy here and Sam Cane play together for the Chiefs, there's a stat, it's massive. They win 80, 90% of their games. And all going well, they're both back there, this weekend. Here you go, look at that, get into you. And as you mentioned, they've got recent history of going down there and beating the Crusaders. So it's something they've done before. Crusaders will also know that. I'll pick up on one other thing. It's interesting, Clayton said they're a team that live on the edge. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a results-based business. But sometimes you have a crack and it doesn't come off. I don't think playing in Christchurch helps them with that. 7:05, I believe it is. The Jews there, I don't think it helps. But they live on the edge, so they can be outstanding.
And that's why, Mills, I think Sam Cane could be critical when you go to Christchurch in these conditions. The fact the battle may won and lost at the breakdown. And I like their forward pack. I love their forward pack. What they've got available to them. Tupavai, Brodie Retallick, Josh Lord, hopefully in the picture as well. You start thinking about Jacobson, really good on the weekend. Yep, it was 4:35 on a Saturday afternoon in Hamilton. It's a different challenge, but I look at their forward pack. And if you're going to beat the Crusaders, you have to match them up front. They can match them up front.
Oh, they can, but hey, this is the Crusaders we're talking about as well. I mean, there's some pretty handy players on their side of it. And when you look up front as well, across the board, got some real nice leadership as well. And then you look at the backs as well. That's probably an area where they could possibly, in terms of experience, the Crusaders, pip them there.
Well, speaking of the Crusaders, let's talk about the Crusaders with a former player, legend Andrew Murdens joins us from Australia. We're going to mention the Brumbies first and foremost because you did commentate them last night. Oh, and it's beautiful at your place. Gee. Double Bay, isn't it? Double pay.
And you don't mean my face, do you?
How important was that for the Brumbies? 3 straight losses and they stop the rot and they get an Australian side into the semi-finals.
Yeah, hugely important. They've now beaten 4 New Zealand sides, I think, and Australians are pinning their hopes to the Brumbies doing well, and their hopes really for the Wallabies season as well against the All Blacks. So they stepped up when they needed to. They didn't have it their own way. It looked for a while like the Hurricanes were going to run away with it or threatening to run away with it. But then the big boys stood up. The backs were slick when they scored their tries. Tom Wright got over, and Lord Lucille was prominent. Banks, as you saw, he raced Simoni as well, but it came off the work of all those Wallabies in the pack. All those big boys stood up. Ala Alatoa, Scotty Seo came on and played a crucial role. Slipper, those sort of players. And so, on top of the fact that Rob Valentini comes back as well, I think, they'll be going into this game in Auckland quietly confident. They know they're underdogs, and I think they're comfortable to be so and try and produce an upset.
So thinking about what you've just said then, how does their game, given what you know, match up against a Blues team that, look, were pretty comfortable in the end last night against the Highlanders? When you look at it and you look at the threat that I suppose this Blues team have, is it about defence for the Brumbies? Is that how they go about winning this game?
Yes, I think so. They're really organised on defence. They're really disciplined at the breakdown in terms of knowing when to have a go and when to just put pressure on and make it difficult. And the Hurricanes eventually realised that and knew that they had to throw more players into the breakdown because they were getting counter-rucked on occasions as well. So, what the Brumbies are good at is they're really good at set piece. They're really good at scoring points off lineouts. They're normally really good at keeping opposition defences scoreless or certainly tryless for the first 20, 30, minutes of the game and sometimes even the whole first half. So, frustrating the Blues, that's what they'll be looking to do just with that tight defence. And then when they get the ball, they're really slick. Their timing's really good. It always has been, probably for 30 years. We all know that. You guys will have played against it as well, as have I. And they're really slick. They can get some really good go forward really easily. And with the backs running onto that sort of go forward, they've got a lot of talent out there, a lot of wallabies. So, like I say, they'll be quietly confident. Even Dan McKellar's words, they're not going to go in beating their chest, but they're going into this game knowing it's a game they can win, and they'll take a lot of heart out of the Highlanders being able to, stymie the Blues attack for long periods of the game. Yes, the Blues ran away with it. They've got an abundance of talent. Down to 14 men for a while didn't help the Highlanders, but the Brumbies will think that they can go on with it longer than the Highlanders could.
Murray, so you talk about, that 14th man and discipline as well, Dan McKellar. Do you think that would be a big focus for him, given, the red cards and the yellow cards and the interpretations of some of the refereeing, that discipline's going to be key?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it's perception with the referees, isn't it? And I probably didn't help my former teams with the referees. They got a really bad perception of me pretty quickly. But the last game that the Brumbies played against the Blues, they were on the receiving end of the penalty count. And a lot of that was just, I think, the weight of possession that the Blues had and, the picture that the referee sees. So they'll want to hold on to the ball. They'll want to look like they're going forward. They won't want to, give the referees any opportunity to get the idea in their head that they're infringing too much. So, presenting that picture to the referees will be really important for the Brumbies, and possession's a massive part of that.
Mertz, you mentioned earlier Rob Valentinis in. How much of a big in is he for the Brumbies?
Yeah, huge, Batesy, because, it's the carrying that he does, and he's developed his carrying ability this year. He's always been good at running into the big traffic and just trucking it up, but he's added a bit more subtlety to his attack this year. He shimmies a little bit, he moves the hips, moves off his line a little bit as he receives the ball, and so he gets himself into one-on-one situations a little bit better this season, and he's been really devastating. And, to cover for his absence, the Brumbies have had to ask 2, 3, 4 players to perform that sort of role, to get in and carry the ball. So, if he is back, as it looks like he will be, then he just takes that role, and other guys can slot back into their support roles from the forward pack that they've been used to playing. So he's massive, and he'll bring out a lot of confidence in the players around him.
Mertz, we're so high on the Blues here at the moment. That's all we're talking about. As a former Crusader from an organisation that has won so many titles, when you think about it, are you quietly frustrated, disappointed that there's not enough chat about this is an organisation that knows how to win. This is your former team. Are we ignoring them at our peril?
Oh, I think, don't ignore the Crusaders. I mean, they love this time of year, always have for 25, 30 years. Just really enjoy playoffs time and get excited. I don't think they showed everything in the last 2 weeks against the Reds. They did what they needed to. But, I mean, if they all fire, then they're pretty exciting, aren't they? And they all play different sort of roles. Obviously, Moong is crucial to that. Fainga Anuku comes in and gets the go forward. Sevu Reece provides the magic. And then Will Jordan, you look away from him for a second and he scores 2 or 3 tries against you. So, yeah, you can't disregard the Crusaders at all. But, much as I've... I don't say I hated playing against the Blues, but it was always a challenge and we always really, really enjoyed it. I'm pleased to see how well the Blues are going, and I think it's been a fantastic tournament. I don't want to see New Zealand teams lose to Australians, but the fact that Aussie teams this year have won maybe almost 30% of their games against Kiwi opposition versus less than 10% last year, I think it's great for the competition.
Hey, before you get a crack at the Blues, remember they've got to get past the Chiefs. Are you not a little bit nervous at all?
Of course. Yeah, I can't stand the Chiefs, Kirsty, as you know. I'm very happy to say it. A lot of that is respect and having, tripped up against the Chiefs plenty in the past. And I just, and again, I say this with admiration, they're a mongrel team. And so you absolutely cannot look past them. And they've showed some amazing footy this year as well. When they've been on, they're on. And they get something. They get a lot more out of their players than what looks on paper, So absolutely, they're a threat. Crusaders won't be looking past them at all.
Well, we've missed having you, so thank you so much for joining us and coming on our program, Mertz. We look forward to seeing you soon.
nice to chat. Hope people were focused more on the scenery behind me than on my brick.
Trust me, we were. Absolutely.
Andrew Middens joining us from Australia. Brilliant to be able to get him on the program. After this, we're going to review the season of both the Highlanders, take a breath, and the Hurricanes as well. But first, the season may be over, but if you need another Highlanders hit, here it is.
We weren't as the unknown so much anymore. We still weren't rated because we didn't have, again, no All Blacks in our forward pack.
We had a boxing theme, 12 rounds. The way Jamie explained it to us was...
We're not going to give up after 6. We're going to go 12, and they're going to have to fight for every inch.
A fighter in a 12-round fight is never going to give up.
We might not be the most talented, but we're going to be the toughest. Just keep coming at them.
G'day, mate.
How's it, mate?
Hey, welcome to Karatane, the northern beaches of Dunedin.
Beautiful spot, mate. Unreal.
Midwinter barbie, mate, nothing better.
Perfect.
You're a dying breed, old son. The adopted southern man, and you're bidding au revoir to the Highlanders. You make your debut 2013, and I've actually got some footage for you to look at of that debut.
Gee.
What's changed? Not much. What about these scenes?
Oh, the zoo's still pumping. It's so good when...
But here you are, mate.
Yeah, obviously a little bit hairier on top.
You haven't changed a lot in terms of the look. Obviously, the locks have been tightened up, but is that just due to married life?
Yeah, no, she sort of starts to part in the middle there now. But no, other than that, yeah, the beard's still in there, and yeah, the mo's probably coming a bit stronger these days, but she was a bit wild and woolly.
Did you think then, on that first game, we'd be standing here now, what is it, 130 odd games later?
I played that game and then got dropped for about 4 weeks. Nah, definitely not. Just stoked to be a part of it. I never thought it would go on this long.
Some of your favourite memories in the Highlanders jerseys? You got to run out with your girls. I'd imagine that'd be right up there.
Yeah, that's a real special one. They're both famous now, according to them. I just about burst out crying as I was running onto the field.
The 8-test All Black coming out with his daughters, Tilly and Ruby.
Obviously, winning in 2015 was very special.
Smith's going to bang it into touch. They've won the Super Rugby title.
Getting to play the British and Irish Lions at home and getting a win there. All the guys that are in the team and that sort of thing, and that's what you remember.
All right, Colty, call you the adopted southern man. What does that look like for the next generation of Highlander that want to be like Liam Coltman? I'll just take these notes because it's quite important.
Well, we're definitely going to have to grow a beard, no doubt about that.
Yeah. An issue.
You're going to have to get yourself one of these, a nice swan dry.
Yeah, swan dry in the winter.
And then a singlet for the summer, and that's it. That's about all the clothes you'll need.
Right, swan dry sash singlet, yeah.
And then on the hoofs, you got to find yourself a pair of gummies, preferably the red band, obviously.
Yes.
That's obviously winter time, a bit of traction in the mud.
Yeah.
And then summertime jandals, one of the two. That's it.
Nothing else.
Unless you're playing footy, then you got your footy boots on.
Righto. And they're allowed when you're in the octagon as well?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Righto. What do I eat?
Well, it's definitely cooked on the barbecue, preferably something you've hunted or killed yourself. Sausages you can have, obviously, fully cooked, mate. But your steak, well, she just kisses the flame, mate. She should be about right. Just like that.
What? Is that even warm?
Just slightly warm.
Character building stuff.
That's good for you.
Yeah. Delicious. Anything else?
If you're going to go into the water, Speedos only. That's it. Yeah.
What? Even
in the middle of winter, like right now. Yeah,
you're kidding me?
That's it, mate. Just Speedos. That's all you need. That's beautiful water there.
Nice.
It's tropical down here.
All right, Cody, all the best in France, bud.
Cheers, mate.
Don't worry, mate. I've got the Southern Man thing all covered for you, all right?
Too good.
I've got you back.
Still got a bit of work, Joey.
It's like being in Antarctica. Woo!
Oh, wow, I don't think any of us needed to see that, but great story on the adopted Southern man, Liam Coltman, final season, and he's played his final game with the Highlanders too, hasn't he? He's off to Lyon.
Oh, miss him. You know, iconic Highlander. You know, you think about what he's been through. He stayed loyal. He's won a title down there. That smile is infectious when you're around him. You know, whether it was win, lose or draw, he loved being part of the Highlanders. You know, it's nice to look back at a career like that, and I wish him all the best. You know, I hope he enjoys the twilight of his career.
Great man, great man. I mean, you always love seeing these because, you know, every team sort of needs a guy like that. You know, he's you know, big part of the culture, big part of the team, even though he's given the old lady, you know, the clothing, sort of the attire and stuff like that. But, yeah, I wish him well. He's been great for the Highlanders, and also the fact he gets to go away and having won a championship, fantastic.
And he's an All Black, right? We shouldn't forget that as well. He's an All Black. He would have achieved one of his dreams, was to represent his country, which is great.
Well, let's talk about the Highlanders and their season in 2022. They're losing a few players. For next season, they're losing their coach, Tony Brown. But this year, what did you make of them, Bates? So you got to play against them. What sort of rating do you give their season?
Never really got going, did it?
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately for them. I know they had a lot of injuries and stuff like that, but it never... If you look for a peak in their season, I'm not sure where it was. And you know, and to be fair to them, they were in the game for 30 minutes last night, so they were still in the hunt, they were still in a chance. But the whole season, we was thinking, will they make the 8? Will they not make the 8? So I don't know. There's no real. Yeah, Jeff was threatening over it.
Sweating the whole season.
But there was no real peak for me in their season, which is probably for them is a little bit unfortunate.
Where you go?
I agree. I think they lacked continuity. I think a big part of that was...
You don't have to explain it to me. You don't explain it to me.
The big part was their driver. You know, so you know they had Hunt in there, and he sort of struggled for a little bit of form. You know, then he got injured. Then they sort of chopped and changed. Marty Beggs came into it. So to find someone with, especially when you've got a young backline, you know, outside you, you know, to really drive the team around in critical moments, I think they really lacked that. Frizzell, for me, was inspirational. He's stepped to another level, and you know, so they've got some good sort of, you know, scattered players around it. But I think when you've got a young team like that, you know, they really lack direction in terms of, you know, a playmaker that was there and a stable playmaker that's going to be there week in, week out.
The moment this competition went to a case where all the New Zealand teams were played first, and Moana Pacifica as well, this conference, and then playing Australia, it made it really challenging for the Highlanders to get any momentum. They missed a couple of opportunities earlier on, one in particular against the Crusaders in Christchurch. You get a win like that, it changes and frames your season differently. You start not just thinking you can win, not believing you can win, knowing you can win big games. And they never really got there. When they got in positions against other sides, they weren't in a position to win those. And their inexperience and injury toll took its toll. When they lost Shannon Frizzell, Manaki, Selby, Rickett went out early. Guys they were relying heavily on to play big minutes through the course of their season meant they were all of a sudden, look, they were not necessarily underdone, but they were undermanned against a lot of teams. On paper last night, this was a matchup you knew one team was significantly more experienced, had, you'd have to say, more talent. The Highlanders, in the end, like it's been for a long time, Mills and Batesy, is the fact they have to be the best team on the field. They cannot be a team with individuals. They're a complete side. And bottom line, they've got some question marks they now have to have going forward about where it is in the direction that they go.
Well, there were some good individuals, weren't there? And I think we're all in agreement who was the best player this season for the Highlanders. It wasn't one of their All Blacks, but Marino Makele too.
He was good, wasn't he? He was really good last night as well. He's got good footwork as well, and a guy that you don't really talk about in the All Black frame or anything like that. But this guy can really plays really well for Hawke's Bay, and was a big difference for them last night. And unfortunately, came off at a time, got a cut. Came off at a bit of a crucial time for them. But yeah, he's certainly put his foot forward.
Should he be in that All Blacks frame?
So many.
Exactly. There's so many.
So just unfortunate.
So many options. But what I loved about him is he embraced the fact that, you know, they're in a struggling team. He sort of knuckled down and thought, OK, well, what are my strengths? I've got to carry really hard when I'm on defence, similar to Frizzell. Him and Frizzell got together and thought, well, this is how simple we're going to make it. And in the end, he sort of, you know, pushed on a bit. And that's what I mean about they've got a scatter of players. I think they can be quietly confident. They can build a team around what they've got there in himself. The group was a big push last night in terms of the way he's sort of progressing. But certainly for me, that they need someone to direct some of these young talent, give them that direction.
I'd say this though, Billy Harmon was out for a large part of the season, so the combination of Harmon, Frizzell and Mikaele-Tu'u didn't play together. They didn't get the opportunity to play together. That combination of players, when we talk about Mikaele-Tu'u, he is in the mould of Hoskins Tutu. For me, they are very, very similar players. You know, one's just got a couple of years' experience in the All Blacks and playing a little. He's now seeing what he's capable of. I'd be surprised if he's not part of a discussion.
I'd just say, so pick something up that Mert said, and he talks about Valentini, who's out for the Brumbies. There's about 4 people that need to come and fill his role. If you look at the ball carriers in the Highlanders, they don't have heaps. You know, I'm not being rude, they don't have heaps. But what they do have is they got Mikaele-Tu'u and they got Frizzell. OK, so all of a sudden, rather than just looking for one man, they'll do this and everything will come off him. They'll do that. They've got to look at 2. You know, this will come here and this will come here. There's a double threat. You take one of those people out, then all of a sudden you're almost leaving that go-forward real grunt work to one man. Comes a lot easier for defence to really tee off where is that one individual. And that's, as I said, that's an unfortunate thing for them. They've had a lot of injuries.
I'm looking at your notes. Most of it is scribble, but there's one name on there, Gilbert. If you're looking at a surprise package, was it a Sam Gilbert? Was it an Umaga Jensen? Who was it for you, Jeff?
Oh, it was Umaga Jensen, and I was bitterly disappointed for him last night, having to go off injured, because I think he recognised it could have been a statement game for him, coming up against the Blues, up against Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. He looks at himself, Rieko Ioane, and going, you know what, am I up to the mark? He's probably one for me that I look at. He'll be bitterly disappointed that he wasn't able to continue the work. And Folau Fakatava as well, returning from a long-term injury. I think he showed some real qualities last night. You've got to like, given the fact he had to play a big chunk of time. I think he played the whole game. Bottom line, it was his best performance for me because it was up against a team of the highest quality.
Mills, if we move on to the Hurricanes, their season is over as well. A couple of defining games for them. The only side to have beaten the Blues, and also that first up loss to Moana Pacifica. 2 shocks.
Yeah, I mean, again, that first one against the Blues when they came back and sort of won it, how they did it, you know, down south was absolutely unbelievable. But some of their, I mean, you spoke about it then, Batesy, some of their big-time players, when you haven't got as many threats, then they become sort of obvious who the guys you want to actually target and try to, you know, sustain. So I guess for them, again, they also, in my mind, struggled to have a permanent 10 that they wanted to sort of really control the game. They had a couple of youngsters come in there, Ruben Love and obviously, you know, they had Garden Bishop as well, who was chopping in and out, and you know, and Aidan Morgan. So there was real uncertainty in terms of their direction. By the end of the season, they probably found their first 5 in terms of what they were trying to do. So again, another team where they've got some real talent out wide, a little bit of mix with experience in the inside, but really lacked that sort of that leadership in terms of a game director. And then in the end, I suppose they had to bring Geordie up to try and nullify some of that sort of leadership and direction.
Well, moving him to 12, left a space at fullback, and Josh Morby, he was good when we saw him, wasn't he?
What I really enjoyed is the fact they gave Josh Morby an opportunity to develop and play, and he showed that he's fearless. He showed he's got the right skill set. It allowed them to, I think, bring Geordie Barrett into the midfield where they needed some real punch. I'm interested to know the contract status of Geordie Barrett and what he's thinking and his future and where it might be, whether or not he's looking for a change. I'm not saying that's a possibility, but what I'm looking at is he'll want to be in competing for titles. We've always talked about this competition, Nils. You need a high-quality first 5'8". If you want to go deep into this tournament, you need a first 5'8" who's of the highest quality.
The Blues took them.
And that's exactly it, though. They haven't managed to replace Beauden Barrett. You're not going to replace Beauden Barrett. I like what Aidan Morgan started to do, but bottom line, if you want to progress, that's what you need, and they've got to settle on and find or work and develop on someone to fill that role.
Well, you look at the finalists. I mean, you've got Moonga there, you've got Beauden Barrett there, Bryn Gatlin's come in, so he's been really stable for the Chiefs. And then you look to the Brumbies and look what Lolo Seal's come. He's a youngster that's come through with the Brumbies, has gone through some adversity with the Wallabies and been knocked back a bit. But they're really stable. They're stable in terms of how the team's performed. Even, I mean, I look back at where Bryn's come from as well, you know, having to compete against Josh Ioane. But he's steered the ship and he's had to really learn his trade in that squad. So you need a 10. You need a quality 10 in there, really, and an experienced one. And that's where those two teams possibly sort of, lacked during that season, particularly when it came to really hard moments.
OK, well, we've got an MVP for the Hurricanes as well. Jeff, give it to us.
Oh, I think it's Jordie Barrett. I think, once again, whether it's been at fullback, whether it's been in the midfield, he's been the most impactful player consistently through the season. Ardie Savea has been really good once again. But I think for me, Mills, for a guy who started at fullback, every time he's played, put on the jersey in 2022, look, he's just been really, really good. He was great last season. He's been great again. They need to build around him. He is the guy. He is the rock in that back line, and we love him. I know I love him at 12 and what he brings. And now with Morby with an option of fullback, there's a 1-2 punch I think they can build on. Yeah,
but he has to really consider now whether higher honour is going to be at 12, and I think that's going to be a tough one for him. I totally agree. I think that he's their MVP. I was waiting for him to actually start to plateau because so much responsibility in terms of what he had to do. Not only play. I think he was in the top 5 or 10 throughout most of the categories. Throughout the Super Rugby Pacific. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. Then he has to actually goal kick as well. So if you're looking at one man to come out and really perform, he was your man. Ardie backed him up, for a majority of that season. But again, I'll go back to Batesy's point. The fact that he only had 2 really established guys that are threats. You go in there and your tactic is just to try and hold those guys off. Well, you're halfway into winning a game, and that's where they sort of lacked it. They need more sort of threats around them.
Well, it was a good thing for the Hurricanes that he stayed fit, wasn't it? But there's been some big injury news across the weekend. We'll start off with the big 2 before yesterday's game. The fact that Aaron Smith is gone with a groin injury for at least a couple of weeks. Dalton Papali'i as well, which big for the Blues and also big for the All Blacks. Yeah,
it is. And obviously, well, Aaron's one now. He can rest up and hopefully get right. And Dalton, first and foremost, it's a big loss for the Blues. How long he's out for exactly, we don't exactly know. Yeah. But it's certainly, this year he's taken over the captaincy, and I know it's a word that's thrown out there, but he's got real respect, real mana against those guys, and you just cannot replace a guy like that. Not having a crack at anyone else, just the way he operates around the team environment, you can't replace him. So, and it'll be interesting too, because the Brumbies are coming with a real grinding style of game on Saturday night, and he thrives in games like that.
It's only 1 more week until that All Black squad is named. How do these injuries impact that squad announcement next Monday?
Well, the interesting thing for me, I look at it, and this in some ways opens up the door for the All Blacks to get more players in their environment, to actually build it for the fact, yes, they think they're going to name 36, but when you've got guys recovering from injury, you don't know when they're ready to go again. You can get them in your environment, help them recover and repair, and then you'll know closer to the series against Ireland when they might be available. So all of a sudden, I think they'll extend this out and you'll have a +3, and the other one will be Ethan Blackadder. I don't know the status of Ethan, because that didn't look good on the weekend.
That's devastating.
It was really concerning. And this, to me, Batesy and Millsy, is one because he's a guy who's got great versatility, who can play 6, 7 and more than likely 8. This doesn't look comfortable. This, to me, is a concern.
What about Luke Jacobson playing 7 for the Chiefs?
Look good.
The other night. Yeah. Yesterday. Yeah, so, I reckon he's a shout as well, because he's another player, along with Blackadder. The only difference between them is Luke's probably a little bit bigger, you know what I mean? So, but he can play there as well, so all of a sudden he's thrown his name back in the ring. Great timing too, because he's another player as well that sort of, has struggled with injuries and that. So when you look at where the Chiefs are sort of coming, and you see how they're skipping it away there, Kirsty, you'll be quietly confident they could go down there and really win. Well,
if you talk about the Chiefs, you mentioned Sam Cane. It's likely that he'll be back this weekend. Josh Lord as well. What about Caleb Clark? How far away is a guy like him? Will we see him this season for the Blues?
Yeah, I think he's a shot. They'll have to. I'm not sure if he'll be there this week, but if the Blues go through, I think he's a shot. He's a chance. So he's coming back, and I guess no one really knows at this stage 100%.
Umaga Jensen didn't look good yesterday.
No, I just hope it's not a repeat of another injury. Look, even then, he went to pass the ball, and clearly something was wrong before. Now, I'm not sure that's going to fix it. I've been through injuries myself. Giving it a whack generally doesn't help. But that's how desperate he was to play. Yeah. This is how desperate as a guy who's, whenever he's played, Mills, he's looked so very, very good. And it's an area, the midfield, where we've still got some question marks about who it's going to be. We've got question marks. I'm not sure the All Black coaches have got question marks. I don't know that for a fact. But for the likes of him, all of a sudden that door may have just got that little bit more closed, But we've got to remember there's a Māori All Black side named as well to play against Ireland. There will be other opportunities for players to shine, and then they will reselect the All Blacks to play in the Rugby Championship. So this is not a one-off selection, right? It is a one-off selection for 3 Test matches.
So there's going to be about 60 players named there over the course of a
We're
week
all
and a half.
available. So we're a chance.
You're about to put your boots back on the weekend. Well, it is that time. Trivia question time. Are you ready for this? Are you ready?
No.
Bates is the favourite coming in.
Terrible.
He's the favourite coming in.
Paying $1. Okay.
$1.
Here is our list. Tell us, what does this list, what do all of these players have in common? Take a good hard look at this list. Got you thinking, haven't we? It's a big list. Some big names on that list as well. We will have the answer for you right after this, but here's a wee clue. Welcome back into the breakdown. Great to have you joining us. Well, we gave you your trivia question before the break. We have a list of names, and the question was, what do all these players have in common? Batesy knows.
Like La Rochelle, they've won a Championships Cup, and La Rochelle won it last weekend. Wonderful game.
Not just that, they've won Super Rugby titles as well, the double.
Wow, that was exactly what Miles was about to say.
Yeah.
He didn't give him the opportunity. It's just right there.
Here it is. They've all won Super Rugby titles, and they've been champions of Europe as well.
Nice.
It's an impressive list.
Good list, isn't it?
Nice, Batesy.
Impressive list.
No wonder you're a coach, mate.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to see something that is even more special? Because 2 of these players have been absolute champions, and they've won more than just Super Rugby and European Cups. Look at him. He's won
greedy.
Everything.
He's greedy.
Holy heck.
Brad Thorne is greedy.
What about that list?
That's
like seriously ridiculous.
Wow. That is awesome.
And the next one? What about this?
Oh,
yeah.
That is a lot of success from 2 players.
That's a lot of celebration. That's a lot of headaches. That's what that is. That's a lot of waking up in the mornings after those and going, oh, that really hurts.
A lot of different currencies as well.
Oh, currencies.
Well, we've got a special guest now. We're very lucky to be joined inside the Black Ferns cap right now by Chelsea Alley in Tauranga. Chelsea, you must be so excited because this is really the start. The Pacific 4 tournament kicks off tomorrow. New Zealand taking on Australia. The first step towards the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. You've just been in your jersey presentation. How was that, and who presented the jerseys?
Yeah, it's pretty special, Kirsty. This is our first time having a home test in over 2 years. I think it's like 1,100 days or something around there. So it's always so special for us to play on home soil. And yeah, getting the jersey tonight, especially in a World Cup year, it's still one of the best experiences you get to have as a female rugby player. So we had an ex-Black Fern come in and present it, and it's always an amazing thing for us to have someone who's worn the jersey before us come and present it and give us some wise words as well. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting week, and tomorrow is going to be an awesome day for us and our team.
Chelsea, clearly, bottom line, there's been a change of coaching staff. What have you noticed? What's the biggest difference you've noticed since Wayne Smith has become involved? Because we've all experienced it here. We know what he's like. But what's the biggest thing you have noticed and the team will have noticed?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect with Smithy coming on board. You hear from everyone you talk to that he's the best coach in the world, that he's the professor, that everyone has so much respect and time for him, but I'd never met him. So, yeah, it was pretty cool in our first camp this year when Smithy and Graham Henry, Ted and Chrono all walked in like the 3 amigas and took over the reins, and it's been an awesome journey so far. I got to say, Smithy is one of the coolest people I've ever met. He's got this just really cool way of putting you under a lot of pressure and wanting the best out of you, but also empowering you at the same time. And I've been lucky enough to sit down and have a few one-on-one chats with him, and it's been really cool because he wants to get to know you as a player, you just as a person before a rugby player, and he really takes the time to do that, and it is really empowering. So yeah, off the field, it's been a massive change. The girls are loving the environment. Obviously, we've got a lot of new caps in here, so that adds to the excitement as well. And then on the training field and rugby field, it's just, this whole different dynamic of putting us under pressure and helping us with our mindsets and our resets to go from the kind of red zone, which is when you're panicked and under pressure, back into the blue zone, which is when you're calm and you know what you're doing. So, yeah, a lot of growth has been happening, and I can't wait just to get out with the girls tomorrow and put all the training into work.
Chelsea, I want to talk about another young coach that's in there. He's not a coach, I think he's a selector, but now he's actually trying to do some coaching, and it's Graham Henry. So he mentioned any of his sort of like phrases, because I always remember him say, "Hey, Millsy, make sure you're white hot." Is that still one of his main sort of phrases?
Honestly, what he's known for in this environment at the moment is just, we'll finish like a real mean training and we'll think we're done, and then he'll just come in at the end with just a random saying. Honestly, all the girls have just absolutely loved having him in the environment. He definitely knows his stuff, but like you said, Millsy, he comes out with some crack-up-ass one-liners. And yeah, he's a funny guy, really unique, but yeah, like I said, knows his stuff, and we're very honoured to have him here as well.
Charles, your husband is going to kill me again because I called you Ali, not Semple, but Chelsea Semple. Thank you so much. We wish you all the very best of luck tomorrow. And if you're in Tauranga, do get down to the Domain and support our Black Ferns ladies. Good luck, Charles.
Good luck. Thanks heaps, guys. Great to chat.
2:45 tomorrow, the Black Ferns taking on the Wallaroos. It's big. This is a statement game, isn't it?
I'm still searching for the blue zone. I've been stuck in the red zone for a while.
I just got to pick up one thing. You know why she didn't know the saying white hot? Is Ted only used to say that after he mowed his lawns? White hot, Millsy, white hot.
You obviously turned up after trying to mow his lawns after me.
I did his weed eating. It didn't work very well.
Before we go, we don't have long, but we've got some quick fire questions for the three of you. First and foremost, Richie Mo'unga has come out in the media this week with his intentions after the 2023 Rugby World Cup is to go offshore and make some money and look after his family for a couple of years. Thoughts? What does this mean for the Crusaders and the All Blacks' first five beyond 2023?
Oh, I think it's great for Richie. I think it's great that he's done that. He's obviously next year still around to be selected for the Rugby World Cup. Great, go over and enjoy, somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Bottom line, when you get to the point where he is in his career, it'll be after a Rugby World Cup. His plan is to go to that and perform for the All Blacks. Here's his opportunity to then go and secure his future with his family. You can't argue with that.
No, you can't, can you?
I just agree. Move on, Kirst. I agree. Yeah.
Perfect. OK. Well, something else that happened this week, Silver Lake, the deal that we've been hearing about for the last couple of years, has finally got the green light. $200 million will be injected into the game here in New Zealand. Do we understand it? Do we have questions about it? Are there any concerns, or do we celebrate, Batesy?
I've still got a few questions. I don't understand it fully, to be honest with you. The people a lot smarter than me do. All I'll say is that I just hope that we use the money really wisely and we don't just start flashing it around all over the place. So we keep the game in good stead for a long time.
We've talked a lot about this game. We've talked about a lot about the Silver Lake deal for a long, long time. Bottom line for me, how about we start focusing about what's happening inside the lines on the field in terms of protecting the players, about making a better product, making sure that the game is entertaining and making sure that it's something that we want to be a part of in the long term. This is clearly about generating income, generating revenue to protect the game. It's important now for me, as exactly what you said, Batesy, about where it goes, where it's invested. But for me, it's not just about what happens off the park. It's about what happens on the park as well.
And I also think a little bit off it is participation. Now we've got an investment in terms of, making sure that we don't blow it. This is invested into sort of making sure, our participation numbers come in. There's obviously been a lot of hurt in terms of, clubs and also the grassroots in that. you know, let's hope there's plans in place, you know, to make sure that we really flourish again, so that we get to, you know, back to the days that you're talking about, or what's on sort of past that sort of white line. So. Finally, Kirst, it's ticked off.
It's done.
So that's a lot. You're just talking about flashing money around here, mate. Hey, put some into the coaching staff, mate.
There's a legacy fund.
Well, it's a legacy fund as well. We shouldn't forget about that. I'm going to just pass one thing up. When you're picking a team, when you're picking a side, how much stock and weight do you put on kicking statistics going in to the next phase of the season? And Geordie Barrett, who was the kicker for the All Blacks last year, is only operating at 67.2%. Beauden Barrett has not kicked as much. For the Blues, Stephen Perofeta has had that responsibility. Richie Mwanga as well, dunning close to 80%. Any concerns right now, or will Geordie get back to that? Because for me, important when you're starting talking about tight test matches.
Yeah, I agree, tight test matches. I just do. So we all notice that Geordie kicks the ball from a long way out. I'd like to know his percentage from conversions, because he goes for those 50, 55 metres, which they're 50-50. So, yeah, hopefully, you know, his percentage is better closer in.
Different responsibility too when he's in a Hurricanes side. You know, his other stuff in terms of, you know, making sure he doesn't have to play and probably taking on someone else's role. So I'm not really concerned. I think we've got quality kickers there as well. You know, I mean, there's plenty of options.
Well, by the time we come back next week and sit in these same seats, we will know who the finalists are. 2 names, quickly, 2 teams from each of you.
Blues Crusaders final.
Blues Chiefs, like I said at the very beginning.
I don't care. to quote Sir John Kerwin, I don't care now. I don't care. It's not my team's not involved. Who do I think? Blues Crusaders.
Blues Crusaders. Interesting one. We will be back.
And you?
Or
Blues Chiefs. Or Blues Chiefs. That's all I think. Blues Crusaders, Blues Chiefs. That's all I want.
You don't give the Brumbies a chance then. We will be back here next Sunday after the semi-finals. We will see you then.
Hall will be there again for Hall. Slims it across to Jordan. And he slides over Sevu Reece. Still going. Sevu Reece. Oh, what a try that is.
But it's for Wimmer. Brad Wimmer. He's over. The rolling ball going. Jacobson. Ball is loose. And through Nakamo. He scores. He pulls the pass down. Nice short ball for Tui Bartashek. He's got Ioane with him, and Barrett's going to get a second. Brilliant.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.